Darling, please don't go home yet. Sun and sky have barely met. Infatuation's fascination has set in. When will I talk to you again? When will I talk to you again? Okay, that is my buddy Josh Smith, Handsome and the Humbles. That is Stay a While off of their EP Hallelujah All Right. My buddy Josh out in Clinton, Tennessee, Handsome and the Humbles. If you're in Knoxville in East Tennessee and you don't know who Handsome and the Humbles are, well, you need to find out who they are. They got a new project out, 400 Cigarettes, new EP. And at some point, I'm going to get my boy Josh on here. Joshy needs to get on here, and we need to talk about some Americana music. But today, on the 63rd episode of the Brian Hornback Experience, formerly the Brian Hornback Podcast, one episode that was just the Brian Hornback 30. But in episode 63, we're going to talk about another candidate running for Knox County elective office. That is Dylan Earley. Dylan, how are you?
I'm good, Brian. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. So you are running as a Democrat, which means May the 3rd is a freebie for you.
That's true. Yes, that is correct.
Unlike the other county commission race over in the 3rd district, I think there is a contested primary there, but no primary challenge for you. So basically, you're just kind of starting now, and you've got till August the 4th. And You're running for County Commission at Large, Seat 10, which is currently held by Larson J., and he's got a primary opponent in Steve Weiner. So you're just kind of getting the freebie, getting to talk to people, talk about what your vision for County Commission is, and then you're waiting to see who you will get to contrast and compare with after May 3rd, right?
Yeah, and that's that's what's the most exciting about this. Of course, I would have welcomed any primary challenger. I think the more people that get in the race, the better. I think we got a better chance to talk about the issues that way. But at the same time now, I can focus between now and May on just talking to people, just getting out in the county. Don't have to worry about anybody slinging anything towards me.
True.
Just get out in the county. I can really listen to people. And that's what I've been doing, man. Just door knocking, going into the communities and the neighborhoods and just listening at what they're frustrated about and what they really care about. And that's been the best thing about not having a primary opponent so far.
So you are an East Tennessean from up around Greene County, right?
Yes, I was born and raised in Greene County. Went to West Greene High School. Grew up in the small Greene County side of Bulls Gap.
All right, yeah.
So I'm a Bulls Gap boy. Graduated high school, went to Carson Newman, got my bachelor's degree there, and then I spent the last 4 years working at 21st Mortgage in finance.
Oh, wow.
So in the meantime, I came to Knoxville as soon as I graduated. I knew I wanted to be here. I've loved Knoxville since I was a kid. So I knew at some point I wanted to be here. As soon as I got here, I decided I wanted to start giving back. So I got into a program through my work that allowed me to start mentoring some college students on their professional and career development. I was a first generation college student. We didn't know anything about that. My family, we didn't know anything about that process. So I knew I wanted to help some of those kids, especially those first generation college students, help them navigate the college world and get them into the professional world. So that's been something I've been very grateful to do in my time in Knoxville.
Before we get too far away from Bulls Gap, my good friend Kirk Talley, formerly with he's a Southern Gospel songwriter. His brother and sister-in-law, Roger and Debbie Talley, and he and Roger grew up in Bulls Gap, and I think Roger and Debbie are still in the Bulls Gap area, but good Southern Gospel legacy from Bulls Gap.
It sounds familiar. I feel like that was maybe a group that had played at the church I went to growing up.
Oh, I'm sure.
Awful familiar.
I'm sure the Talleys have been around. They were. His father was I believe it was Red Talley. If I'm starting to venture too far out, I'm going to make Kirk hear this since he's been referenced and his family's been referenced. But the Talleys, Kirk was a tenor singer with the Cathedral Quartet. He started with the Hopper. He and his brother started with the Hoppers. Yeah. And then Kurt went to the Cathedrals, and then Roger and Debbie just retired this year. Their daughter Lauren Talley is now doing a solo career. She's now based out of Georgia with her husband Sam Hoyle. So throw out all these names so I can get my Southern Gospel folks listening to the podcast at some point. But anyway, good folks. The Tallies are good people. But yeah, so that's the only famous people other than Dylan Earley that I know from Bulls Gap. So there you go. Anyway, but yeah, so you're not, although you're running as a Democrat. I think I've read somewhere where you're a reformed Republican or a former Republican or something like that. Talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah. So growing up, I was very involved in the Republican Party. Even when I was in college, I helped found the Young Republicans chapter in Greene County, and I was their vice chairman for a few years. But when I wasn't really a supporter of Trump in the beginning, and that was something
he was my third choice, but that's okay.
And that was something I felt very strongly about. And the time came, at least in Greene County and at some levels here in the state, they're really big on if you hold some sort of office within the GOP itself, not an elective office, but like I was with the vice chairman. They want you to openly endorse whoever the nominee is. Well,
right.
I didn't want to support Trump. I was pretty clear about that before he became the nominee, and I had told them that I would likely not endorse him when the time came. Well, the time came, and I didn't do it. The county chair of the Greene County GOP, well, he gave me a call, and he said, "Hey, man, we don't see your endorsement anywhere. We've not seen it anywhere on your socials or anything like that." And I was like, "Well, I've told you before, I'm not doing it." And he basically said, "Well, you've got today to do it, or you can leave the party." And I said, "All right, I'll see you later." So I kind of experienced a period of political homelessness then. I've still got some of my, I was on Barber's podcast a couple weeks ago, and I told him I still got some of my conservative streaks in me,
sure,
for lack of better words. Fiscal conservatism is something that's important to me in a lot of settings, especially here on the local government. That's one of the reasons I decided to jump into the race, is because I think we're spending money really poorly all over the place.
Right.
That's something that's very important to me. But to go back to the, why I changed to the Democratic Party, I just, I never felt after that there was a place for me in the GOP. And personally, I think the Democratic Party has kind of expanded their tent a little bit. They've kind of got a little bit of a big tent. I felt like they had room for me, and I felt like they were willing, at least here on the local level. I won't speak to the national level, but at least here on the local level, I feel like they had a lot of the visions that I had for Knox County, and how we can make the budget better without raising taxes, and how we can spend money better in a way that supports everyone in Knox County, and not just a few of those people on the commission and their buddies.
Right. Well, and we don't need to necessarily get. Obviously, politics is politics, but if you didn't feel like you had a home with the Republicans and the Democrats were open, hey, I don't fault you at all for that. You go where you go, and you definitely want to feel welcomed. And I think, I've told my Republican friends that Matt Sears is doing, as a former elected official, as a former school board member myself, as a former Republican Party chairman. Matt Sears is doing the job that a party chairman is supposed to do. He's supposed to welcome folks who want to serve and who are willing to put their name on the ballot. And my whole thing is, as far as my blog and as far as this podcast, anybody that puts their name on the line. I did that as a 23-year-old young man in 1990. Came within 112 votes. Waited 10 years before I ever ran for office again. But anybody's willing to put themselves through the rigors of being exposed and open. I think everybody ought to have a fair shake to be heard. So
I agree. Well, this is the thing for me, Brian, is I'm running as a Democrat, but that is not what it's about for me. Especially, we get so caught up in the partisan stuff on the national level.
Yeah.
Man, I'm not running for the Democrats in this race. I'm running for Knox Countyans. That's the thing for me. I'm a member of the Dry Hollow Facebook community.
Okay.
I live here in South Knox, and we're going to attend the zoning meeting tomorrow together as a
community. Yeah, that's for Thunder. That's for Thunder Mountain, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, because for the podcasters that are listening, this is being recorded on actually President's Day, February 21st. So we're talking about a meeting that's going to come up. So let's talk about while we're on that, let's kind of talk about what what has been your impression with land use issues, and what do you want to see in the future with land use issues as the at-large county commissioner?
Sure. Well, my main issue with it is that the community has been removed from the discussion completely. When you have commissioners that push the public out, for fear of being, for fear of hurting their own political ambitions, that's a problem for me.
Absolutely.
And Kim Frazier, I don't know how much she and I would agree on, politically, but man, she's doing a really good job of championing this land use movement, especially over there in Hardin Valley.
Well, she ain't a Johnny come lately. She's been doing this work for about a decade now, so she knows what she's talking about. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Hardin Valley to me is a case study in how we have failed with land use, and I'm not opposed to development. But when the county commission just abandons every tenet of the growth plan that we had in place just to appease these developers, well, that's an issue. And on top of that, they're not having any of the community in the discussion. Larson J. went on Barbara's podcast last week, and he said, well, if the community is really upset about it, they could march down to the county commission and they can let us know. And I'm like,
yeah, because
I know there have been people at zoning meetings. Us in South Knox are going to be there tomorrow, and nothing's changing. He's not listening. He's not listening to any of us. They're still abandoning the tenets of the growth plan. They're still giving concessions on number of units per acre to these developers, and that's an issue. I've been in Hardin Valley, Powell's, Hall, and all across South Knox. Nobody's happy about this.
Right.
When he goes on the Compass and says, we as a community have decided to develop this way, I don't know who he's talking about, because I haven't talked to a single person that's happy about the way we're doing it right now.
Right. Well, and I mean, for the commissioner to say, they can come down there. I mean, the whole tenet of our representative republic is that we're as a my opinion is public officials are supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. And
absolutely.
And saying that the public should come down to the city county building, first of all, you don't make it very easy, because parking is a
nightmare.
Is a female dog in its in the most present language that I can say. And then it's certainly is since 9/11, they don't make it easy to get into the city county building. God forbid you happen to have a pocket knife on you as you're going through security. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, you have these meetings at 7:00 at night. These zoning meetings at 7:00 at night, which, I mean, I give them kudos for 7:00 at night, because at least you're not doing it at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, if everybody that wanted to show up from Thunder Mountain and everybody wanted to show up from Hardin Valley actually showed up, you wouldn't have enough room in the building to hold them all.
Exactly. I don't see, Larson specifically, but with so many of these commissioners, Democrats or Republicans, I don't see them out in the community listening to these issues of land use.
Well,
I don't see them talking to any of these neighborhood groups that are concerned about
Has Carson Daly been over to talk to the community about Thunder Mountain?
I'm not aware of that.
Right.
To my knowledge, I'm the only one that's even within the political realm that's been on that Facebook group and talked to them.
Oh, wow. About it. So I made reference to Carson Daly. That's the commissioner for South Knoxville. So the way, for those that are listening that maybe you're not from Knox County or you're new to the whole process, we have 9 commission districts. You have 1 commissioner from each of those 9 districts, and then you have 2 at large that are supposed to represent all of Knox County. I guess the 4 years before, I guess this will be finishing up the 8th year. 4 years before, we had 2 at-large commissioners that both were from West Knoxville. One was from Sequoia, and one was from Hardin Valley. That was Bob Thomas and Ed Brantley. Those individuals have gone off the commission. Then you have Larson J., who was from at one point lived down there behind Lake Shore in the Lions Bend area. Now he's supposedly moved to West Hills because he's going to build a house in Sequoia, I guess, because he's got further political aspirations.
Yep.
And then you had Justin Biggs, who was from Hall. So ideally, it worked out pretty good because you had one from West and one from North. But now both of them, Larson's trying to get reelected, but Justin is not. So anyway, but yeah, you would think that these. So the idea is that every district would have 3 representatives, right? You would have your district person, and then you have the 2 at-larges. But Biggs is running for trustee. And then Larson's trying to run for re-election. So, it's this has been going on, for a while. I mean, we filled up Farragut and Southwest Knox County, where I happen to live. Now they're moving over to Hardin Valley, and then eventually it's going to go around. They're going to finish filling up Powell, and then going over into Corrington and Gibbs, and then on to Carter until they get back to where you're at over there in South Knoxville. So,
well, and that's the thing is when I moved to South Knox a few years ago, people said, "Well, it's not going to come here. Like it can't come here." And I'm like, "Well, that's just not true. Like they're going to take what they can get. Like, and the county commission's going to give it to them. That's the problem is people thought it would just be contained to Farragut and Hardin Valley." And I told people that's not the case. I'm like, we've got to do something about it now. And now we see this stuff with Thunder Mountain. And again, I'm not opposed to development. What I'm opposed to is the community being taken out of the equation completely.
Well, everybody should be heard, right?
Exactly. And everybody in this community, in the Dry Hall community, is especially concerned about the concession that Thunder Mountain's asking for on the units per acre. The growth plan suggests it's like, I think it's 2 per acre. And of course, Thunder Mountain's asking for 3, and I've got a feeling they're going to get that tonight at the commission, or tomorrow night, at the zoning meeting. Of course, we're going to go in there and fight to make sure that they don't. But I just think there are some commissioners whose loyalties lie with these developers and those people donating to their campaign, and not the people in Knox County. Right
now, when we talk about the Thunder Mountain situation, that's a piece of property that's got a lot of unusable property, right? So they're going to try to. So if they had 2 or if they have 3, but all that's going to be kind of put onto a smaller piece of property because they got to make up for the part that's not usable, right?
Exactly. So they're just going to cram the homes in together,
right?
And that's the concern. And of course, it's a beautiful piece of land. I don't know if you've been out there to see it.
I haven't.
I think personally, I'm a little biased. I think South Knox is one of our most beautiful communities, but. Man, this piece of land out in the Dry Hall community is gorgeous, and I personally would hate to see it just be ruined.
Now that is out on the that's out Chapman Highway out near what's the big church there?
It's kind of near Food City and Lowe's down Chapman Highway.
Yeah, right there near John Sevier and yes. Chapman Highway. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Well, what else? So we've kind of talked about land use. What other things could will County Commission be able to see differently when Dylan Earley is the at-large County Commissioner on September 1st? How will things be different outside of the developers being able to have their way with land use?
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned earlier on the podcast, one of the biggest things that I looked at before I decided to run was the budget. I spent several hours kind of pouring myself into the county budget. And that's like 450 pages. That's a beast to look through.
Yep.
But, I did it because I knew that was going to be something I wanted to understand before I got into this race. And, of course, when I got into it, I found a lot of things I took issue with. I don't think we're giving Knox County schools enough money. I certainly don't think we're paying sheriff's deputies enough money. Problem for me is that they give raises to the sheriff's department, but I think the last time they did, or maybe the time before, it was just sergeants and up.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of an issue for me. I mean, why are we not paying the deputies that are on the ground doing the work?
Well, there's been more turnover in the Knox County Sheriff's Office with officers leaving in the last 3 years than we've probably ever seen.
Well, Brian, it's the same in Knox County schools because we're not paying teachers enough,
right,
and we're not paying deputies enough. And I think we've got one of the highest position openings in KCS, I think we're top 5 in the state on that. And I'm sure the sheriff's department is somewhere up there as well. The deputies are on the ground doing the work, man, and we're
right,
giving sergeants raises.
Right.
what I saw with the budget was that the county's priorities are just all over the place, and they're not in the right places. You know, we keep giving raises to these county offices, and I'm not trying to underscore, you know, what these county offices do, but, you know, no matter who's in office, I don't think the mayor's office needs to be given raises every year, or the trustee's office. I certainly don't think county commissioners need to be given raises every year. I mean, I want people in these offices that are doing it for the right reasons, not to go into the office and make six figures.
Right.
You know, I think that money is better used on people doing the hard jobs. It's not hard to be a commissioner. It's not hard to be the county trustee. That's not a hard job. We don't deserve the money for that. The people teaching our kids and the people protecting our streets deserve the money, and we're just not giving it to them. So day one on the county commission, we're going to overhaul the budget. We're not going to raise taxes. We're just going to move money around to things that make sense and that matter to regular people.
Well, and you know, I've noticed that with Commissioner Jay, I mean, I think people can see on my blog and on probably in the podcast that, you know, there's I certainly, even as a Republican, have a difference of opinion with Mr. J, but you know, I mean, he gives a lot of lip service to having done these budget workshops. I mean, in the 1 year that he was vice chair, or no, I guess he was chair. He was chair. He was chair for 1 year. You know, we saw a lot of meetings where there was a lot of talk, but, you know, we didn't see any real actions. And so, you know, I mean, it's I don't know. I certainly think that he should, as you indicated. I mean, I think everybody ought to have to say what they plan to do, and I think the voters should hold people accountable to keeping those promises.
I agree.
What do you think about the other departments? We've talked about sheriffs. We talked about schools. What do you think about? Are there other concerns in other departments? Parks and Rec. Any of the others that the current mayor has that you've seen that might need to be addressed?
Yeah, there are definitely other departments I have an issue with. You know, it's funny you mentioned Parks and Rec. This isn't something I was going to talk about today.
Oh, it's on my radar. So let's go ahead and talk about it.
Well, I've got a friend, and I'm not going to name him because he's been giving me information, but he doesn't want his name to be out in public.
Sure.
But he's with the Parks Department.
All right.
And when I say he's with the Parks Department, I mean for the last 2 years that I've known him, he's essentially been in a volunteer capacity, but he's been over an entire section of the Parks Department. I'm not going to say which county, part of the county, because that,
right.
But, you know, for his part of the county, for the last 2 years, he's been taking care of all the mowing, taking care of raking all the fields, fundraising to have new grass and turf and everything planted like that. He's been doing that all on his own with no help from the Parks Department. He's had to fundraise everything for the upkeep of these fields in his part of the county. And the issue is that he's not the only one. They have these other appointed volunteers in other parts of the county that are doing the same thing. And I think that is just a gross underinvestment of our kids, man. I mean, we should have kids, like, why are we not putting money in the facilities to have our kids out playing ball in the summers?
Right.
I mean, I did that when I was a kid. That was one of the greatest experiences of my life, was playing rec ball in Greenville. And we can't put any money into that in the Parks Department. It's just a gross hierarchy with the Parks Department, with a few people at the top getting a lot of money and expecting people at the bottom to maintain the fields and the programs for free. It's a big issue.
It's on my radar. It's nothing that I've published or done yet, but certainly what's going on. It was exposed, I think, probably about a year and a half ago. I'm the one that talked about the rugby park. It was a park that the county had been given. The county had given the rugby park the property, and the rugby park put millions of dollars into it, and then the county then wanted it back. And ultimately, you know, I had some misinformation. I immediately corrected it. Both entities got together, and now they're kind of working together. But it was really almost a robbery of where an organization had been doing the work, and had put in millions of dollars into the park, and then the county just come in and took it from them. And it looks like some of that may still be going on. Nothing that I want to talk about now because I'm still digging into it. Well, where can folks find you on the web and on Facebook if they want more information about Dylan Earley?
Yeah, I'm on all the social media platforms. So I'm on Twitter at electdylan.e, Facebook and Instagram at electdylanearly. And, of course, the website is www.electdylanearly.com. And, of course, if anybody wants to reach me directly, you can shoot me an email at electdylanearly@gmail.com. 99% of the time I'm the one answering that, responding to folks, and I would love to hear from you.
Very good. So, folks, that's Elect Dylan Earley. That's DYLANEARLEY. Elect Dylan Earley. Well, we will definitely be having you on again. Obviously before August the 4th, and we'll be watching you and we'll be keeping up with you. And thanks for being here on the Brian Hornback Experience, Dylan.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you, sir.